Today, I'm going to paint a rose on a card. I do a lot of cards, but usually I have them in landscape. This time it's in portrait, because it's a portrait of a rose. And I use watercolor mostly, a little bit of gouache, and of course I sketched it with pencil. I thought I would show you this as a way to maybe encourage you to paint a card for somebody. Robin and I paint cards for people who the church identifies as being homebound or hospital bound or just feeling like they need a little boost. And you know, when we send the cards, sometimes we get these nice letters back and sometimes we never hear back at all. But it doesn't matter, because ultimately it's about giving and about making somebody just feel good. It's hard to understand why a hand-painted card might make somebody feel good, or even a store-bought card. But it does. It does. You get something in the mail. Nobody's asking. You know, it's not an advertisement. It's not something you have to feel guilty about. I'm not sending any money. So just send somebody a card. Paint a nice card. You know, we've done in the course of doing this channel, we've done so many different cards. You know, chipmunk, landscape, seascape rather. There's a little body of water. You know, they're all different. And I don't think I've done too many flowers. I mean, I did do another rose once before, looking at it from a different perspective. And that'll go to somebody. Somebody will get that and say, oh, I got a nice card in the mail. But I want to show you how I did this one. All right? So let's go. All right, so you can tell that I have speeded up the video here. The whole thing was like an hour long, and it didn't need to be an hour long, and I forgot to talk during like the second half of it, which is okay. It's okay to have the sound of the pencil on the paper in this case, or the sound of the cars going by outside, or the sound of the birds outside. But in this case, I did a time lapse, and hopefully it doesn't take away anything from the purpose of these videos, is to share what I'm doing, and then you share what you're doing, and it's a fun little community that we've got going here. But I know some of you like these things as tutorials. I will say this, that I'm not the best teacher. I can show you what I do. I can even explain to you what I do. But I don't know that I can explain how I choose, like, composition things. I can't explain to you how I choose colors. Although, in the case of this rose, I mean, the color choice was pretty easy. It's a red rose, you know. And the red that I have was from Winsor & Newton. And it's this right here. I don't know if you can see it in the little picture on the screen, but it's pan colors, of course. Pan watercolors. And the red is more like a wine red. I was thinking, as I did this particular painting, that maybe I should get some of those more brilliant fluorescent color reds. I think that would be cool to do a flower like that, or especially a red flower, any bright color item, really. The paint sometimes makes the difference. It really does. So anyway, it's a Tuesday here in Florida as I record this. It's April 16th. Yesterday, Robin and I went to an antique shop, and it was called Ocala Antique and Estate Sales. Okay, so I guess they took this old store, maybe an old supermarket, and they rented out spaces, like 10 foot by 10 foot or 10 foot by 20 foot or whatever. They rented out spaces to different vendors who wanted to sell antique stuff and old stuff. I don't know what the difference is, but anyway, it was amazing to walk through this place and to see all of the things I mean, things from a different era. There was a bicycle built for two made out of wood. Now, isn't that something? I think that was from the 1800s. Um, there were heads of animals, taxidermy heads, which I am not a fan of that, but a lot of people are. When I was a kid, I went to Teddy Roosevelt's house. No, he wasn't still alive. I'm not that old. But Teddy Roosevelt lived on Long Island, and I live on Long Island, so I went to his house one time. It's a museum, of course, and he had heads all over the place. I mean, the guy was a hunter, and he put heads of his animals, the taxidermy version of the heads, of course, on the walls, and it was just, whoa, so many of them. And there was a lot yesterday in this antique shop. But there were other things too. There were old record albums, and I'm a big music fan. I love music, and I really don't listen to records anymore. But every time I see a vinyl record, I have flashbacks to when I was a much younger person, and I would devour them, if that's the good word. I would buy a record and study the album notes and the album cover, and listen to every track over and over again. And so anyway, they had a lot of vinyl there. They had a lot of there was old currency, and there was old coins. I guess it's sort of the same thing. There were the Breyer horses. I don't know if you're a horse person, but there was a lot of Breyer horses there. There was just a lot of old stuff. There was old, like, RC Cola, the big metal signs that used to hang on the deli, and Schlitz beer. I think that's the beer that Milwaukee made famous, which Robin loves because she's from Milwaukee. So, oh my gosh, so many different things. Little fountains, and I did not see an accordion there. I was looking for one, but I didn't see one. Not that I'm in the market. Don't worry, I got two, and that's all I need. I don't need any more. I only need one, really, but I guess I have a spare just in case. I only play the accordion once a month, okay, to be honest with you, at First Friday Art Walk. Anyway, let's get back to the painting. So what I did first was I penciled in a sketch, and then I did a light wash of light red, or it looks like pink, but it was really the same color I'm using there, but just watered down. A little bit of light green for the leaves, just to give myself the clay on the table, something to work with. And now I'm painting in the red so that it's the darker areas, if that makes sense. Because at the edge of every one of those petals, there's light that hits it, and it creates this white line for the sake of doing a painting. And hopefully I got it right. I don't know. And what I was thinking about is that, Mother's Day is coming up, and I don't know if your mom wants a hand-painted card from you, but she might. It's amazing. People love these hand-painted cards. I go to people's homes, and they have them in frames, and they have them up on the mantle, and it's funny when you're an artist and you do paintings, you often think, oh, I should do a big painting, 4 feet wide and 10 feet long, or something like that. Something big. I should do something big and grandiose. And if you do even 16 by 20, you give a painting to somebody, and what are they going to do? They can say, where am I going to put this? This doesn't go with the living room, and whatever. But you give them a little 5 by 7 card. They can put it in their office. They can put it on their bulletin board. They can put it on their refrigerator. And you write something on the back. I always write something on the back, like when I painted it or whatever. And then they have the inside to write whatever they want, if they want to give it to somebody. So anyway, so what I was thinking about was Mother's Day, because Mother's Day is what, next month? I think so. I think Mother's Day is next month. And I was thinking about my own mom. When I was a kid, I used to make cards for my mother. I should have done it as an adult, right? Why didn't I? That's a regret. I should have done cards. Well, I didn't. I did them as a kid. In fact, my mother, I think when I turned 40, she gave me a scrapbook of old photos and old things. And I think one of the cards that I painted or drew for her was in that scrapbook. My mom was from Germany. I was born in New York. All my family was born in New York. My brothers, my sister, my father was all born in New York, but my mother was born in Germany. And she came over to the United States when she was three years old on a boat. Now, 1 year earlier is when they were supposed to come over. You want to hear the story? I'll tell you. My grandfather didn't like how things were happening in Germany. This was 1927. 1927. My grandfather decided to move his family to the United States. And he saw more opportunity here, and he saw a more stable government, and so he planned to come over with his whole family, which was his wife, my grandmother, or she would become my grandmother, my mother, who was 2 years old at that time, and my uncle, who I think might have been 8 years old. I think he was 6 years older than my mother, 4 or 6, something like that. So my grandfather, however, couldn't come over with them because my mother had some kind of a sickness. Maybe rubella, does that sound right? Or scarlet fever? She had something. And at that time, and maybe it's still true, you can't enter the United States legally if you have some kind of a contagious disease. So she did, and they weren't allowed in. But my grandfather came over in 1927. He got a job, he started learning English, and so his whole life was turned upside down. I mean, he was working in a factory, or well, he used to call it a machine shop. I'm not really sure what the difference is, but anyway, or if there is a difference. So he was working there for a year, and then in 1928, my grandmother, my mother, and my uncle finally were able to come over. My mother was no longer had whatever she had, and everything was good. So they could come over. So in 1928, they came over. She celebrated her 3rd birthday on the boat, and she still remembered it. After all of her life, she remembered that birthday on the boat, which was kind of cool. We don't always remember things from when we're 3 years old. So, so she was an immigrant, a little immigrant child, and I don't think she had a problem with the language because she was only 3. I think my uncle had to have an adjustment period because he was, like I say, maybe he was 9 at that time, either 7 or 9. He's either 4 years older or 6 years older. But anyway, he did go to school like right away, and of course he had a hard time with the language because he only spoke German and he had to learn English. Fast forward to 1967, okay, so we're fast forwarding 30 something years from 28 to 67, 28, 38, 48, 58. Wow, 39 years, right? My mother gets this letter in the mail that states that she's not a legal citizen, that nobody ever did the proper things for immigration. Now, I don't know what happened. I was only, let's see, at that time, 1967, I was only 12. So, but what I remember about it though was how worried she was. Of course, she grew up here. She raised her family here. She's married. She has a husband. Her parents are here. Everybody's here. Her brother's here, my uncle. And now they're telling her she might be deported. This was 1967. And so all I remember was they were concerned, my parents were concerned about the expense, the legal fees. How much is this going to cost? There's a lot of money involved, blah, 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 blah. I don't remember all the details. But I thought to myself, maybe I could make some money to help out by painting a picture. So I painted a picture of a cat. I happen to have it right here. If you take your eyes off of that rose for a second, let me show you the cat. There's the cat I painted a picture of. Now that is some cat, huh? And on the back, I know you can't read it, but it says my name, which it's not Poppa. That's not my real name. But you can call me Poppa. My little grandson calls me Poppa. My name is Larry, okay. But it has my name and the title of the painting I called The Cat. And the date was September 22nd, 1967. So I walked around the neighborhood knocking on doors, asking if anybody wanted to buy the painting. Nobody did. So sometime later, maybe the next day or whatever, one of the ladies who I knocked on the door and pitched my cat to, one of those ladies lived next door to a lady who knew our family. And she went there. She said, do you know, and she described me, and that lady said, yeah, I know who you're talking about. So that lady knocked on on our door, the house I lived in, and my mother answered the door. And the lady wanted to talk about me trying to sell her a cat picture, and I thought I was in big trouble. Oh man, I thought I had just done something that really was going to be bad. My dad was at work. I thought he's going to come home, and I don't know what's going to happen. You remember those days. Hey, I had great parents. Nobody abused me at all, but you know, you don't want your parents getting mad at you. So what happened was the lady wanted to talk to me because she was an art teacher, and she wanted to tell me not to sell the painting because I'm going to wish one day I had it. I'm going to grow up and going to say, oh, I wish I had that painting I did. And well, I still have it. I never tried to sell it again. In fact, I look at it as like an embarrassing piece of work because it doesn't look really good. But when I was 12, it takes time to learn things, I guess. But you know, it is interesting how people are put into your path, you know? And I still remember that lady. I don't know her name. I think I could remember where she lived because she lived next door to the lady we knew. All right, so let's talk about this. What I was doing while I was talking here was I was painting the rose. And basically, I'm looking at a reference photo on my computer screen, which is not in this picture. And I'm taking the dark reds and the light reds, and I'm painting them in. Simple as that, because I had already sketched in the shape. And so I'm studying it, basically looking at it and painting in the different shapes and trying to create that look of petals coming out from the middle and flowing and bending a little bit at the edges and, you know, the way a rose actually looks. And so I did use a little bit of black, and I did use some gouache, which is important to mention because the watercolors were not as brilliant red as I would like them to be. And to be honest with you, neither was the gouache. I think to get that brilliant red, you have to get those, the brilliant colors that they sell in the art store or on Amazon or whatever. I think I got mine. I'm pretty sure I got both of mine at Hobby Lobby. I know I got one of them at Hobby Lobby. Maybe the other one was a gift from somebody. I think I'm shaking my camera. Sorry. I'm getting you dizzy, aren't I? But anyway, the little white edges on those petals, I accentuated it a little bit with a tiny line of white paint or pink. I kind of mixed the red and the white together with gouache. So it's like a mixture of gouache and watercolor, which, you know, they're both water soluble, so they work well together. But if I do another one, maybe I'll get some of those more bright colors, and we'll see how that works out. And you can tell I'm almost done with the flower itself, and then I'll get the background in there. And it's a decision, like when you're doing a composition, do you want the background to be lighter or darker? You know, and in this case, I made it lighter, but I didn't keep it white. I kind of just pushed around dirty water, as I say, and created a background behind the flower. I think that's what I'm up to at this point. So anyway, so getting back to the Mother's Day thing, and this is not a bad idea to make a painting for your mom. Let me tell you something. I wish I had done this for my mother when I was an adult. Like I said earlier, I did this. I painted cards for my mother when I was a kid, and for some reason I thought it was a kid thing to do. Isn't that silly? You know, I got people now just asking me for cards. It's just amazing how many people want cards. I'm gonna do something with Fine Art America, and have prints of the cards available. That way, you know, they're affordable. The original cards, I either give them away or I charge $120 for them. I'm not trying to sell you a card. Don't worry. But yeah, when somebody asks to buy one, somebody who's somehow found me, and sometimes they ask me in church. Sometimes they'll ask me, like, Robin, I'll be doing First Friday Art Walk. Hey, I watched you painting this landscape. Do you still have it? And of course I say either yes or no, and then they say, are you selling it? And then I'll say, well, if you want the original, I can sell it to you, and people pay. So if you're an artist and you're trying to sell art, just get it out there. You know, just if you're a singer, let people hear you sing. If you're a dancer, let people see you dance. If you're a chef, cook for some people. Let people know how good you cook. If you're a seamstress, you know, put together a dress or shirt or a jacket or something like that. What other arts are there? If you're a skater, anything you do. What's the saying? Don't hide your light under a bushel. I don't know if that's from the Bible or not, but you know, don't be ashamed to show your talents and support other people. I don't mean to preach to you, so never mind. But you know what I mean. Some people just sometimes the best thing you can do for somebody is to respect their gifts. You think that's true? To respect them, first of all, but to respect their gifts. Somebody's a great orator. Somebody's a great thinker. Somebody's a great problem solver. Somebody's a great therapist or anything. Or a great basketball player or great anything. So, anyway, how much time do I have left? I don't think I have that much. I only got about 3 minutes left. Anyway, thank you for watching, for listening to me yap on about things. So I'm going to call this a tutorial, even though it's truly probably not as much of a tutorial. But hey, I learned by watching other artists, and I still learn by watching other artists. There used to be a guy named Harold, and Harold worked at a local arts and crafts store. And he would sit there and he would do paintings with soft pastel on velour paper, and they were beautiful. This guy was an incredible artist. And so I learned by watching him. I used to stare at his work. Yeah. Well, what I'm doing right there, you know what that is? That's spritzing the paper with some droplets. I know, I don't always do that, but every once in a while it looks nice just to have something look a little sloppy, I guess. Does that make sense? Sometimes sloppy looks good. And that blue thing, that's my dryer. It's a hot air dryer. It's not meant for drying paper. It's meant for shrink wrap, but I don't have a hair dryer, so I'm using that. And it just helps speed up the process and everything. So thank you for watching and for the comments that you leave, and happy Mother's Day. I know we're not there yet, but maybe you'll make a card for your mom or somebody else. And that's the other thing, you know, if you're going to make a card with it, if you have children, little children, then they're gonna make some cards, it's a great thing. Go buy those blank cards that I got from Amazon. They're from Strathmore. I have the cards here, but I don't have the label. I knew I would lose that label. Wait a minute. No, I didn't lose it. Here it is. This is the packaging for the watercolor cards. Okay? Strathmore. All right. Looks like the video is almost done. Oh, yeah, that's right. I added a couple of those little pieces of flower of green underneath the flower itself. And I didn't add any thorns to this. What was I thinking? Isn't that part of the personality of a flower? A personality? No, it should be a plantality. They're not a person, they're a plant. The flowerality. No. All right. Hey, thank you for listening, and I guess I'll wrap it up. You guys take care of yourselves. Thank you for what you say with all the comments, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time. Deal? Deal.